Okay. So you're Meisha, and so here's my question. It's two parts.
All right.
The universal general part is we're all going to die someday. What happens next, in your opinion, your beliefs? And the second part is like, however you believe about that, or have doubts about that, wherever you're at with that, how did you get there? You know, and so I would ask more questions about that.
All right. Well, I kind of got there from like more so bullying, really.
Bullying?
Mm-hmm. It's one thing where when I was younger, my grandma is very religious, and I'm not exactly gay. I'm kind of in the middle, but it's something that in my community, it's not really genuinely accepted as much as it should be. So in the younger generation, it influenced me because I came from a super religious family, but not like strict, just like this is just what we believe in, and we're open to opinions, but this is what we feel in our heart.
Yeah.
And it just.
And are you talking about like the larger community or a smaller, say, church community?
The larger community, actually.
Okay.
I grew up on the south side of Chicago in West Pullman, deep south, and it's actually an issue that even my siblings deal with. Like homosexuality in the African American community is not as widely accepted as it needs to be.
Yeah.
So out of that, I felt like I was bad because they were like, oh, you're gay, and then I hear stereotypes. God doesn't like gays. God doesn't like people who are different. And the thing is, though, I never came out, never did any of that. It was just from pure assumptions. So I felt like even me looking the way that I do, I thought it was a mistake. I thought it was nothing more than a reject. I thought...
Did you look different or act different back then?
Yeah.
Are we talking about what, in your teenage years, or?
Yeah. Like, before, I'm pretty open, so I'm transitioning at the moment, so I'm not completely...
Okay, so Meisha is I thought it's like a...
I kept my name because my grandma named me.
Okay.
Like...
Oh, so you're transitioning to male?
No, actually, I'm in the middle.
Right.
I'm a male and a female. I'm androgynous.
Okay.
It's something...
And I guess I'm wondering, transitioning from male to female or female to male?
Female to male.
I see. Okay.
But in the middle ground.
Right.
Because what my grandma calls it, because we also come from like part Native American, it's like a two-spirit, like a feminine and masculine energy that just happens to be combined into one body. So, as you can see, it's kind of like a cluster, but
yeah.
Just, I felt like God really didn't love me, honestly, because the kids would hurt me, and then I would read things or hear things, or they say like, oh yeah, you're disgusting, you're a mistake. Shoot, even in the church, like, why would you do something like that? Like, oh my gosh, do you like her or something? And it was...
There's a lot of expectations.
Yeah, just a whole lot. And even with my grandma, she expected me to be this like young, flourishing little girl, but even she noticed when I was younger that I was kind of like shifty back and forth. Like I would still wear my dresses, but I would do more masculine actions. Like I would play a lot of sports, I would skateboard and all that such.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't considered okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't a normal girl, quote unquote. But my grandma even said, it's okay, I already knew that you probably weren't going to end out like as feminine as I want you to be, but you're still my baby girl, and that means the world to me. And sometimes, a lot of the times, like after about maybe 16 years old, I said, you know what, maybe God does love me, because from the bullying and stuff that went on for so long, I didn't have friends until like my late teenage years.
Would this be bullying from girls?
Girls and boys.
Both? Okay.
And because the boys would beat me up and the girls would lie to me and say that like I was flirting with them or doing something. I didn't have friends for a really long time, and when I was 16 I tried to kill myself. And when I did, my grandma found me maybe 5 minutes later because I tried to hang myself and she took me down. And when I woke up, I see her crying because I actually was awake, I was alive, I was breathing, and in a way, like, I felt like, okay, so she accepts me, and I look at her highly, and she said, God gave me back to you, and honestly, I believed her because she saved my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So you lived with your grandma. She was the main caregiver for you?
because my mom gave me and my siblings away because she couldn't take care of us, she was honestly doing drugs and not really owning up to the fact that she left us. So she came back later on in like my teenage years and tried to make up for it. But she tried to take it in a manner where it's like, we're not kids anymore. You can't just treat us like 5-year-olds when we're still trying to develop into adults. Like, we're in high school now. And
Yeah.
so pretty much, like, with religion, like, I just honestly think miracles do happen and things happen for a reason. Like, in the afterlife, I feel like, honestly, reincarnation, like, for me personally, I feel like if you do good deeds in the world, then sure, like, you could come back as like an animal if you want to say, but like it could be an eagle, it could be a rhinoceros, it could be a president, it could be you could be really anything, a world leader.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I ramble around a lot.
No, that's fine. It's fine. I hear a lot of different opinions on that, beliefs about that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and feel free to say I don't want to answer that.
That's
okay.
Okay.
So, are you taking hormones to make this transition? Is that's what the
I am.
Okay. I'm just ignorant. I'm sorry. I'm just ignorant about it.
That's completely understandable.
So that's where the facial hair is coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And would you say that you are attracted to girls, and so you want to become a boy? Like...
Yeah.
I
no, actually.
I'm sorry,
this is like, okay.
You're educating me.
For me specifically, I don't exactly like boys or girls.
Okay.
Like, for me, I have to have such a strong emotional connection to you to even want to consider, like, hey, that's my romantic partner. Because
right, yeah.
Friendship for me personally is just something that I hold very dear because I really didn't have it when I was younger. So I try to confide in that because it's something that I find security with. So I get scared of relationships or I feel uncomfortable. So I've only been in maybe 2 romantic relationships, and it took a while for that to happen because we didn't date after like maybe 2 or 3 years because I was like, I want to know them first, and they expressed that they were attracted to me, so I was like, you know what, I want to take my time. I don't like jumping into anything or being free because it's like, just like it's sacred to me. It's like my body is a temple and I want it to be respected and feel safe with who I'm with. With transitioning, it's kind of hard to express. Like, my grandma's starting to understand it a lot better because she calls me a surprise because I'm both and neither at the same time, as I say, because I'm not completely masculine. I like cooking. I like to wear skirts or dresses every once in a while, preferably kilts because like they're kind of in the middle. And such. And
you should have been Scottish. So, when I was growing up, there were some girls who were, we would call them tomboys.
Yes.
So you're familiar with that term?
Very familiar.
So was that kind of like how you were? Like it was like people would just say, well, this girl is more into athletics and more in, just...
With the kids, they were more so like, oh, they're a dyke. With the adults, they were more so like, okay, they're more athletic. Let's put them on the sports team. I was like, okay, cool.
So for the kids, it was more like, we got to find a category. We got to call you a name.
Yeah, the adults were a little more accepting, which was very nice, except for like maybe 2 or 3 people who I've had an incident where like they've even done discriminatory things toward me, mostly because they found out that I happen to like girls, and then they just switched personalities and started to be more mean to me, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
They asked about my personal business. This was my math teacher from 11th grade.
Yeah. I'm actually a high school teacher, so just to let you know where I'm coming from. So I should know these things. I should be aware because I have had some students, but I don't. It would be inappropriate for me to have this sort of conversation in school.
I understand that completely.
So I'm not able to ask them things like that.
Yeah, it's like a separation, and that's completely okay.
Did you start going through this transition before it kind of like leaped onto the national scene, recently, or is that?
Personally for me, with transitioning and trans becoming more popular, the fact that, oh gosh, I was actually talking about this yesterday. The trans scene, the trans bless that came up where lots of gay is coming out. The acceptance part, it wants to be there, but some people do it for attention, whether they want to believe it or not, because I've met some people during that time and they started to transition, and not many people talk about it, but unless you're like really certain that you want to like do that, whether it's for masculine, feminine, or in the middle reasons, you have to be certain that that's what you want. As of now, they're actually trying to transition back. It's something that it's rare, it's pretty rare, but some people don't want to talk about it because it's uncomfortable, but it's just like, it's natural, it happens sometimes people change. Like, even now, I'm changing and you're changing because every 7 years, all of your cells, they recycle, they pretty much die, and you become a new person because you don't have the same cells anymore.
I want to make sure you're in here. What has been your experience in church then? Like, did you go to church when you were young, or
I went to
your
church.
grandma?
Yeah, every Sunday until my grandma decided to stay home because she would work a lot still for AT&T, so it was pretty busy. So our neighbor, Miss Beverly, she would take us to church instead and took over after maybe 5 years because I went at like a really young age, maybe about 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went to like church maybe till I was like about 14 years old, but in my heart I was like, this
not for you.
Not really for me, more so because I'm very spiritual myself. Like, I believe that there could be a higher power because this is awesome. This is like something.
You look at a painting, and if it's an awesome painting, you think the painter must have been an awesome person. I mean, you look at, for me, so it's like I look at the creation. It's like, and I do see the problems. It's not like I'm blind to the problems of. So as a Christian, I believe this is a fallen world, So sin, I mean, the Bible teaches that sin has corrupted this world, but still you can see through that and see the beauty and the creativity, of the Creator would be how I would look at it. And I would look at a person like you, not like you, like any person.
It's okay, I'm not.
And say, I'm not trying to put you in a category, but just to say, look at any person and say, that's a fellow image bearer. We're all made in God's image, and we all have intrinsic worth and value for that reason. I do believe sin has corrupted us. So I mean, I have to keep reading past the first chapter of Genesis and first few chapters where it says we're good, we're created in God's image, and then go on to the part where but we turn from God and we have been we've been put under a curse, and that there's the whole idea that when we sin, it creates this distance between us and God. And so like Adam and Eve, that whole story, all of a sudden they realize they're naked. It's like we're exposed. God knows everything about us, and they want to go and hide. And so this close relationship that they had with God is destroyed by their sin, and they go and hide. And the beauty of it is, what does God do? He seeks them out, and He goes after them. And so that's kind of like a foretaste of the rest of the biblical story. It's a story of God seeking us out, making us in His image. Again, we all have that worth and value. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I don't mind listening.
So that's kind of like where I'm coming from, you know, now I was going to ask you something. So you felt the message from church was a negative one towards anyone who's, I don't know, different churches are different, you know, about that. So
very true. My church personally didn't like homosexuality, but they never really talked about it.
Yeah.
So more so I just heard stories, went to Bible school. Some of the people didn't like me because some of the kids told their parents. And this was even before I really came out. I guess they heard or something, but then the awkward tension.
Yeah.
But I still like the preacher because, like, he was very nice to me. He did not know himself, but he was still a nice, loving, and caring person. Like, I was afraid to come out, yes, but aside from coming out, I wouldn't want to do it because I would want to keep the relationship with him. But as I'm older, I feel like I'd really want to because I do genuinely want to have an open bond with him because, like, for a while he was like an uncle to me.
Yeah. You want to have that open communication and feel like you can talk about anything, I would think, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
How would you describe your identity? You know, as far as, like, other than your name, you know, like, who are you? Like, what makes you you? You know? And obviously this is a part of it, but I'm just wondering, like, is that the part, or is there something else to who you are?
I'm an artist.
Okay.
I paint, I write music, I do spoken word and poetry. I just like to create.
Yeah.
I love to make things. I love to mold clay. I love to paint anywhere and everywhere that I can. Not graffiti.
Uh-huh.
I just like to take my pictures with me, and sometimes I'll even just place them down in maybe a restaurant or something. But I just love art and spreading sound, music, touch, feel something.
So I'm not real artistic. My wife is an art teacher, so she could relate. But for me, everything needs to have a purpose, right? So I would think if I was really real creative, I'm actually, like, I do play, like, music, but
that's creativity.
yeah, but it's to express myself, right? And so I help lead worship in church, you know, and that's an expression of who I am, right? Is your art for art's sake, or is it for getting a message across? And so again, I'm kind of getting at that idea of, like, who are you, right?
That's who I am.
And so are you just a creative person, or do you have a message? See what I'm saying?
My message.
And I'm not saying there has to be one message. I'm sure there's a lot of messages. And I'm asking. I'm not trying to, you know, like, say you should have a message. Maybe it is just art for art's sake, right?
You can't fail if you never tried.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you failed, why stop? Because an effort is a Siamese twin to success. That's what I am. That's the message I try to spread.
So maybe, like, exploring different topics.
But then also stand up for yourself. Because, like, honestly, that's a big, huge thing. I don't...
Putting yourself out there.
Yeah. I don't use a lot of political stuff, like, really ever. I'm not a PC person. Just have a personal preference.
Yeah.
But with my art, it's legitimately who I am. Like, specifically, like, painting and drawing. Those are something that I hold, and I just want people to smile or feel something with whatever I create. I don't care what they feel, anger, happiness, sadness, rage,
and I guess really good art, like, has a lot of different ways of interpreting it, right?
Really good or really bad. Art is
just to give you an insight of, like, how I think, my favorite artist is Norman Rockwell. Are you familiar with him?
I'm not actually.
He's the one that he does these illustrations that kind of tell a story, but there's pretty much only one message you can get from it. See what I'm saying?
What's the message?
It could be anything, like...
So interpretation?
No, it's more... so he does illustrations of, like, real life scenes, so it's very realistic.
Oh, okay.
And usually from his illustrations, you can tell what happened before that moment and what's about to happen. So you know.
So like the middle is empty.
No, the
Like
middle.
you know what's going to happen.
For
when
example,
the president passed, but
for example, this isn't one of his works, but it's something that I've always thought would be a good work of art. I was driving under downtown, and I don't know, this is a long time ago, so there used to be a lot of homeless people under Wacker Drive downtown. And so I was driving, and I saw a person with like a huge wedding cake, not a complete one, but almost, you know, like not just a wedding cake, but you know, like tons of food, right? And they're sleeping, and so they got tons of food right next to them. And I looked at that one scene, and I knew, I could tell what had happened. Somebody had too much food and wanted to give it to the homeless, so they quick snuck up there and placed it next to him. Didn't wake him up. Left, right? So I could tell what had happened. And I could kind of tell into the future what's going to happen. Wow, look, you know, think about the expression on his face when he wakes up. See what I'm saying? And so that would be like a classic, I think, Norman Rockwell scene. Something like that, you know?
that seems like
where
an
he's-
idea that you should jot down.
Well, yeah. But that's kind of like typical of what he would do, where you would look at what he's doing, or look at the picture and you could tell what. And he had the ability to capture these special moments, you know, that would tell a story like that, if that makes
That
sense.
is really surreal. I see what
So,
you
but it's really, it's like there's only one interpretation. It's like I know what I know what I'm seeing, and you know what I'm saying, and so it's not your typical art or like a song where you can just like interpret it different ways. Oops, I'm sorry, I meant.
It's okay.
Hello, can I call you right back? I'm sorry. Thank you. I meant to like put hang up, but I. So here's what I'm wondering about. I don't know if you heard the reparations debate yesterday.
I did know, actually.
So it's a real big thing in Congress. They had a big, you know, do you know what reparations are? It's the idea that as a result of slavery, Black Americans should be paid back for.
I know what you're talking
Okay.
about now. Okay, it's coming back.
Okay, so so it caused me to do a lot of thinking, and I thought about it, and I thought, would Martin Luther King be for reparations, right? And I believe he wouldn't, because he would say, I would want people to be judged not by their color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Yeah.
And so, in other words, is our identity wrapped up in the group that we're in? This is called identity politics.
Yeah.
You know, the group that we're in, or is it who I am as a person, right?
Yeah.
And I think he would say, there shouldn't be reparations because it's putting Black America in the position of being a victim. And no one develops their character by being a victim. We want to be a
I
victor.
have that discussion a lot.
Yeah.
I do, I'm more so leaning to the he really wouldn't have wanted that, because, as you're right, it can be hindering, because I don't want anyone to give me anything.
Yeah.
I want to earn everything that I had. Like, even when I left my grandma's house, I was homeless for a while, and I had my mother. I could have asked her. I really like her like that. I had my father.
Yeah.
I have a decent relationship with him, but I just left everyone and everything.
You want to make your own way.
I wanted to make me happy.
Yeah.
And I could only do that myself. No
Yeah.
one could completely make me. I don't put my heart, my emotions, or anything into what anyone can give to me. Like, if we have a close connection, sure, but I don't want you to give it to me out of pity. I don't want you to give it to me because you feel like you owe me something, unless it's a debt that we
Yeah.
agreed upon. Sure. But I'm very strong on hand-me-outs.
On what?
Like, when you hand out stuff to people, like, and I can understand for, like, the impoverished and stuff, that's a general issue.
Mhm.
And I can understand, like, people assisting to help people grow. So, like, let's say the, I think Ticket for Work for SSI. Like, if you do get the benefits, yes, they also give you the opportunity to work yourself off of them into,
Yeah.
like, a better job and all that
Yeah, it's
stuff.
meant to be a temporary help, not your identity, you know?
Pretty much.
So based on what you're saying, I would say that you don't see yourself as a victim. You are overcoming your obstacles, and which means you are a victor. You're an overcomer. You're a problem solver. See what I'm saying?
I don't want to let my past create my future unless it's something positive. I want to create my future myself. I don't want an identity that's not mine, that someone's trying to give to me.
Yeah.
I want my own power, because hey, if I make my own money, I can pay my own taxes, I can get my own, put down for my own mortgage, I can do all of this stuff by myself. I don't owe anyone anything, because I'm earning it with my hard work, not with people giving me stuff. If I need a job, I will go out and I will go get that job, just like I did when I was on the streets. I didn't ask anyone for anything. I worked random jobs to get my attire so I could go. I just came back from an interview and scored it because I went for it myself.
An interview what?
An interview myself. For like a...
And scored it, you said?
I scored it.
Okay.
As in, I got the
job. So you nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is probably an older term.
Yeah, right on the money.
So you got the job?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And I'm actually really
Congratulations.
excited. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Like,
that's cool. So getting back to the original question.
Reparations and such.
Well, the original question actually, what do you think happens after this life? Oh, and you were saying
I think
reincarnation, things like that. So maybe a question that kind of goes along with that is like, how do you determine spiritual truth? Like, what would be your standard, your criteria? I would say that I don't know your church that you went to, but more than
Faith
likely,
Deliverance. I still remember it to this day.
okay, more than likely they have the idea that there's a heaven and a hell and a judgment day, right? And so you've rejected that.
Not
in
completely.
favor of, okay.
I still consider it, because one thing I do believe in, like, I can believe in a heaven because, like, if you're so pure that, like, I don't know, you just can't stay on Earth because maybe there was an error or something, kind of like with a computer, so you couldn't completely get processed through. So instead of like going into limbo, you were just a saved file that ended up lost on the PC, but it doesn't mean you're useless.
Yeah.
It's just you're there doing another purpose.
Like, I guess, because a lot of times different people have different ideas of what happens.
I'm not stern on beliefs.
Yeah. Oh, you're not set in.
I'm not heavy because I like hearing different things and hearing different beliefs, different choices, different origins of how one's religion created them, how it helped them.
Yeah.
Because, as I said, I don't disbelieve a God or God himself.
Yeah.
Because I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
He created something. Even though there's good and bad, I honestly wouldn't want to have anything perfect because it'd be boring. And you're not going to earn anything anymore because, as I said, people are going to give it to you.
Yeah. I have run across that idea that perfection would be boring. So heaven is this idea that there's no evil, that God is in complete control, or in other words, the kingdom of heaven means there must be a king. See what I'm saying? And so in a kingdom, if you're not for the king, you're against him. You're not part of that kingdom. See what anyway, so I've had some people, like, they have this image of like floating around on a cloud playing a harp, and heaven must be boring and I wouldn't want to go there. I'm kind of getting back to this idea that, like, creation is awesome, therefore the creator must be awesome. The more scientists discover about how big the universe is, how infinitely, and then how small it is, and on a micro level, whatever. It's like it's expanding our understanding of the creation. And for me, that's exciting because it's like, how could I ever be bored by being with the creator of all that? It wouldn't be boring, What makes heaven exciting or interesting would be God himself, to be in the presence of God and not be in a bad relationship with that creator, And so that's the hope that I have of heaven is being with my Creator in a right relationship. And the Bible teaches that, we can have a right relationship or we can continue to go our own way, and He doesn't force us to have. How can you force a right relationship, right? The right relationship means God is the king and I'm not. God is God and I'm not. A wrong relationship would be like, well, I want to be God too, or I want to judge God. I'm not gonna let God judge me. I'm gonna judge God. That would be a wrong relationship. It'd be like, how could I, being so small and insignificant and like compared to how huge this creation is, how could I even think that I can hold a candle to God?
Yeah.
So it has a lot to do with who am I in comparison to God, and
in comparison to God, I'm him or her, depending, because I think it would be boring because it'd be too black and white. There wouldn't be discussion. There wouldn't be debate, because if there's right and wrong, that means there's no middle for conversation.
Mm-hmm.
As in, if everything's always right, then how can you question it? Questioning is like a curiosity. Questioning is how a lot of stuff got made.
Mm-hmm.
So, with a king, as you said, of the kingdom, no king is perfect. That's why sometimes they get beheaded. And in the kingdom, the queen holds all the power.
Yeah. One of the things that, and I understand the whole debate about, was God female or male, or how does God, how does God identify itself? The Bible would say God has revealed Himself to be, not to be male, but to want us to refer to Him as male. For example, Jesus said, when you pray to your heavenly Father, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Like, I didn't make that up, I could have just as easy, if it said, pray to your mother, your heavenly mother, our mother, if Jesus had said that, I would be praying to a heavenly mother. See what I'm saying? So it's not my idea or my ability to, it's like God is the ultimate, in my opinion. I'm not trying to say you have to believe
No,
this,
that's
but
completely.
God is the ultimate. God is, as far as I understand, God is the only one who can self-identify. Now that's a hard thing, because you've had to deal with that, right?
Yeah.
What to identify as, but so the way I see the Bible is God is revealing Himself throughout history. Number one, beginning with that, the one who needs to be God and has the right to give us a rule: don't eat from that one tree,
Yeah.
And then when we do, when Adam and Eve do, has the right to get upset, to give a curse, but also is the one who is going after them and clothing them, and even there's foreshadowing of God being the one who ultimately will bring us back into a right relationship with Himself. I'm sure you've heard about, like what Jesus did on the cross, and
honestly, with the Adam and Eve story, with I feel like when Eve ate the fruit, the ego is created.
Mm-hmm.
And the ego is something that a lot of humans, it's something that's just what we have. It's who we are, or who we perceive ourselves to be. Because the ego consists of about 4 layers. There's who you really are on the inside, who you want to be on the outside, who you think you are, and what people see you as.
Is that, are you referring to that as opposed to like the id and the ego and the superego, or is this something different?
This is just, it's literally just layers of the ego.
I think it's Freud's layers, or labels, but
and
so
because I don't know, people don't always open up completely about who they are inside.
Oh no. Who's got time? Ain't no one got time for that, right?
Right?
You only can do that with certain, like to a limited extent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
You wouldn't want to walk down the street and someone say, "Hey, how you doing?" And you're like,
you're not really feeling it.
or you're gonna like tell them everything.
That's free speech, and that's your will. That's willpower.
I know. I'm just saying, like, not everyone wants to hear that, all the details. But yeah, hopefully we have people in our life that